I stood frozen in the lobby of the Azure Cove Resort, the scent of expensive perfume and chlorinated water stinging my nostrils. I watched my own children, my flesh and blood, walk away. They were laughing, heading toward the bank of elevators, and not one of them cast a single glance back. Sarah, my daughter-in-law, had just said something, her voice a sharp blade in the air-conditioned hush. "It'll be so nice," she'd said, finally being free of the burden. And they had all laughed. Robert, David, Chloe, a chorus of casual cruelty. They didn't know I had heard every word. They didn't know that the burden had just paid for every cent of their reservation. They didn't know about the 8 months I'd spent waking up at 4 a.m. to make my signature jams and preserves, hauling the heavy crates to the farmer's market every Saturday, stashing away crumpled dollar bills and coin after coin in an old coffee tin. I hid behind the canned goods in my pantry. They didn't know that the deposit alone had cost me my wedding ring. They also didn't know what I was about to do. But to understand the cold, clear resolve that settled over me in that marble lobby, we have to go back. It all started 1 month earlier, on a Tuesday afternoon, when the November sun was warm and buttery through my kitchen window, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. I was preparing my afternoon tea, a ritual I'd kept every day since my husband Arthur passed away 5 years ago. The silence of the house had been my only companion, the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall, measuring out my lonely days. The kettle had just begun to whistle when my phone rang, its shrill sound startling me. It was my eldest son, Robert, with that voice. The impossibly sweet, honey-coated voice he only used when he needed something. "Mom," he began, his voice practically crooning, "I have the most wonderful idea." I felt that familiar, foolish flutter in my chest, a desperate little bird of hope that always took flight whenever my children remembered I existed, whenever they decided to include me in their bustling, important lives. "Oh?" I said, setting the kettle down, my hand trembling just slightly. "What do you think about us taking a real family trip for the holidays, all of us together, like in the good old days?" His voice sounded so genuinely excited, so full of boyish enthusiasm, that I could almost see his smile through the phone. It was the smile that had charmed his teachers, his coaches, and, for 45 years, his mother. "I found this beautiful resort down in the Florida Keys, Mom, the Azure Cove. It has everything, pools, restaurants, activities for the kids. It would be perfect." I leaned against the counter, feeling my eyes fill with sudden, warm tears of joy. It had been so long, so very long since I had felt truly included. I was invited to Thanksgiving, of course. I was the one who roasted the turkey. I was invited to Christmas, where I would wash the mountain of dishes. But I was always on the periphery, a quiet shadow sitting in the corner while they talked about their jobs, their new cars, their exotic trips, their endless, complicated plans from which I was always excluded. I was the one who served, who cleared, who retreated to the kitchen while the real conversation and laughter carried on in the living room. "That sounds wonderful, Robert," I replied, trying to keep my voice from cracking with the sudden, overwhelming swell of emotion. "When would it be?" "The first week of February. 7 days, Mom. Imagine it. All of us. Me, Sarah, David, and Chloe, the grandkids. And you, of course. Like one big, happy family." He paused, and I knew what was coming. The little favor. The small detail. "There's just one tiny thing, Mom," he said, the honey in his voice thickening. "The resort is a bit old-fashioned. They require a single person, a primary guest, to make the reservation and handle the booking. It's just easier for their system. Could you take care of it? Put it on your card? We'll all transfer you the money afterward, of course. It'll be much simpler that way." Of course. It was always like this. I was the one who put my name on the line, who provided the guarantee, who handled the paperwork and the deposits. I was the family's designated worrier, the administrative assistant to their fun. But this time, I didn't mind. How could I? This was a chance, perhaps my last, to do something truly special for my family, to buy my way back into their lives, to show them how much I loved them. "Of course, son," I said, my heart soaring. "You can count on me." That same afternoon, My hands shaking with a mixture of excitement and nerves, I called the resort. The receptionist had a kind, professional voice that sounded like sunshine. "The Azure Cove Resort, this is Tiffany. How may I help you?" "I'd like to make a reservation for 12 people," I said, feeling my heart race. I had never organized anything so grand. "Wonderful, ma'am. For what dates?" "From February 2nd to the 9th. I heard the polite clicking of her keyboard. "All right. That would be 5 of our family ocean view suites, all inclusive, with full access to all resort activities. The total for that package, for 12 guests for 7 nights, would be $5,800. I stopped breathing. The number echoed in the silent kitchen. $5,800. My entire monthly pension, my only income since Arthur died, was $950. The money I had saved from 8 months of selling my jams and preserves, my strawberry rhubarb, my spiced peach, my triple berry, amounted to just over $900. I didn't have anywhere near that amount. "Ma'am, are you still there?" Tiffany asked, her sunny voice now laced with concern. Yes, I'm sorry," I stammered. "Is it possible to confirm the reservation and pay later?" "We do require a 50% deposit to confirm the booking, ma'am. That would be $2,900. $2,900. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my worn rocking chair, the one Arthur had bought me after Robert was born, and calculated. I recalculated. I stared at my bank statement, the numbers mocking me. I had the $900 from my jam sales. I had another $1,100 in an emergency savings account I hadn't touched in a decade. That was $2,000. I was still $900 short, just for the deposit. My gaze fell on my left hand, resting on the arm of the rocker. The faint light from the street lamp outside caught the small diamond in my wedding ring. The ring Arthur had placed on my finger 47 years ago. It was a simple gold band with a modest, sparkling diamond that he had saved for 6 months to buy. He'd told me it was a promise, not just of his love, but that I would never be alone. The next morning, I took the bus downtown to the jewelry store on Main Street. Mr. Henderson, the owner, was an older man who had known my family for decades. He'd replaced the batteries in my watch and resized my pearls. "Eleanor," he said, peering over his glasses, "what a pleasant surprise. How are you?" "I'm doing well, Mr. Henderson. I came to ask what you'd give me for this." I slid the ring off my finger. It felt strange, my hand suddenly light and bare. A cold wave of panic washed over me. He took it, his expression softening with understanding. He examined it under his loupe, turning the small, bright thing between his wrinkled fingers. The silence in the shop was thick, broken only by the ticking of a dozen clocks on the wall. "It's a lovely piece, Eleanor. A classic setting," he said gently. "I can give you $900 for it." I felt as if I had been punched in the stomach. $900. That was the price of 47 years of marriage, of raising 2 sons, of a lifetime of memories. But then I thought about Robert's excited voice, about the image he'd painted of a big, happy family. I saw my grandchildren's faces, laughing as they splashed in a pool. I saw myself, sitting at a table with all of them, included, mattering. "It's a deal," I said, my voice a whisper. With the $900 from the ring, added to my jam money and my emergency savings, I had exactly $2,900. I called the resort that same afternoon and paid the deposit. The reservation was confirmed in my name, Eleanor Vance, with my credit card on file as a guarantee for the remaining balance. 5 family suites, 12 people, 7 days, all inclusive. Over the next few weeks, the excitement was a fire in my belly. Every time I spoke with Robert or David, they asked about the trip details, the restaurant options, the pool hours, but they never mentioned the money. "Oh, we'll talk about that later, Mom," they would say dismissively. "The important thing is that we're all together." I continued to sell my jams, but now, with a new desperation, I had to cover the final payment. I took on sewing jobs for my neighbors, hemming curtains and mending trousers late into the night, my fingers aching. My house became colder because I turned the thermostat down to 60 degrees to save on the heating bill. I ate vegetable soup and toast for dinner. I walked to the grocery store instead of taking the bus, even when it was raining, all for that perfect family trip. 3 days before we were set to leave, Robert called, his voice brimming with manufactured excitement. "Mom, you don't know how much we're looking forward to this. The kids are vibrating. Sarah has everything packed. How are the hotel preparations?" "Everything's ready, son," I said, my own voice tired but proud. "Just the final payment is left." "Oh, yeah, of course. Well, we'll figure all that out when we get there. The important thing is we have fun." The night before the trip, I sat at my kitchen table and stared at my laptop. The final payment of $2,900 was due. My savings were gone. My jam money was gone. My wedding ring was gone. I took a deep breath, pulled out my credit card, and paid the final balance. The entire $5,800 plus the debt left on my card. But it was worth it. I was going to have 7 perfect days with my family. I had no idea what I was about to discover. The morning of the trip, I woke before sunrise. I had packed my suitcase the night before, carefully folding each item. I chose my best dresses, the pearl necklace that had been my mother's, and my comfortable walking shoes for the beach. I felt like a child before Christmas, a giddy, light-headed feeling I hadn't experienced in years. Robert was supposed to pick me up at 7. We had planned to travel all together in 2 cars for the 3-hour drive to the Keys. I put on my favorite light blue dress, the one David always said made my eyes look brighter, and carefully applied a touch of lipstick. I wanted to look nice for the family photos we would surely take. At 7:30, Robert honked from the street. I grabbed my suitcase, locked the front door of my small, cold house, and walked to the car with a smile I couldn't wipe off my face. In the passenger seat, Sarah, my daughter-in-law, was staring intently at her phone. In the back, my 2 youngest grandkids were engrossed in a tablet, headphones on. "Good morning, family," I said, sliding into the back seat, my suitcase now in the trunk. Only the kids replied with a mumbled, "Hi, Grandma." Distracted, Sarah barely looked up. She mumbled something that sounded like a greeting. Robert started the engine. "Are you all ready for a perfect family vacation?" I asked, trying to inject cheer into the sterile silence of the car. "Yep, Mom," Robert replied, his eyes on the road, his voice already sounding tired. "Sarah, did you text Chloe so they can follow us?" "They already left," Sarah answered, her thumbs flying across her phone's screen. "David drives like a turtle, so we'll probably get there before them anyway." During the entire 3-hour drive, I tried to make conversation. I asked about Robert's work. I asked about their plans for the resort. I asked if the kids were excited to swim. The answers were monosyllabic, grunts, half smiles that quickly faded. Sarah kept texting, and every now and then she would let out a small laugh at something she read. "Something funny?" I asked once, leaning forward, trying to be part of whatever was keeping her so entertained. "It's just my friend's group chat," she answered without looking at me. "Things you wouldn't understand, Eleanor." I fell quiet after that. I stared out the window at the passing landscape, the flat Florida scrubland giving way to endless stretches of water and mangroves. I thought about all the jars of jam I had sold, about the late nights I had spent sewing, my back aching, about my bare left hand and the ring that was now sitting in a jeweler's safe. When we arrived at the Azure Cove Resort, my breath caught in my throat. It was even more beautiful than the pictures. Towering palm trees swayed in the ocean breeze. The gardens were immaculate, exploding with hibiscus and bougainvillea. The white facade of the building gleamed under the midday sun. Water fountains cascaded in the entrance, and I could hear the sound of the ocean in the distance. "What a beautiful place," I exclaimed, feeling my chest swell with happiness, the uncomfortable car ride melting away. "I can't believe we're here." The kids jumped out of the car and ran toward the entrance. Robert and Sarah began to pull suitcases from the trunk. Just then, the second car arrived with David, Chloe, and the rest of the family. My 17-year-old granddaughter, Lily, was the only one who came over to hug me. "Grandma, this place is incredible," she said, her eyes shining with genuine excitement. "Did you see the pool? It's huge, and they say they have themed restaurants and activities every night. I know, honey. It's going to be a wonderful week, I replied, stroking her hair. At least someone shared my enthusiasm. We all walked into the lobby. It was a cavernous, elegant space with cool marble floors that reflected the light from massive crystal chandeliers. White leather sofas were arranged in cozy sitting areas, and tropical plants grew in enormous ceramic pots. The air smelled of gardenias and salt. "Good morning," I said to the receptionist, a young woman with a kind smile. "I have a reservation under the name Eleanor Vance." She typed on her computer and smiled brightly. "Of course, Mrs. Vance. We've been expecting you. 5 family ocean view suites, 7 nights, all inclusive for 12 people. Everything is in order." While she was preparing the key cards and explaining the resort services, I heard my sons talking quietly behind me. "5 suites?" I heard David whisper to Robert. "I thought you said it would be simpler." "Mom organized everything," Robert replied in a low voice. "We'll figure out how to split the costs later." The receptionist handed me a folder with the keys, each on an elegant keychain shaped like a palm tree. The suites are all on the 3rd floor, all with an ocean view. Breakfast is served from 6 to 10 in the main restaurant, lunch from 12 to 3, and dinner from 6 to 10. You also have full access to the spa, the pools, all sports activities, and the nightly entertainment. "How wonderful!" I exclaimed, my heart pounding with excitement. "Did you hear that, everyone? We have access to everything." But when I turned around to share my joy, I froze. There was no one there. Robert, David, Sarah, Chloe, and all the grandkids had vanished. Only Lily remained, looking at me with a strange, uncomfortable expression on her face. Where did everyone go?" I asked, my stomach suddenly dropping, the folder of keys feeling heavy in my hand. "They went to the elevators," she replied, biting her lower lip. "Dad said they were going to get settled in the rooms and that we would meet up later." "Without waiting for me? Without the keys?" Lily didn't answer, but I could see in her eyes that she was hiding something. We walked toward the elevator bank, but there was no sign of them. We went up to the 3rd floor and walked down the long, carpeted hallway. It was as if they had vanished into thin air. "Lily, what is going on here?" I asked, my voice trembling. She sighed, a heavy adult sigh from such a young girl. She took out her phone. "Grandma, there's something you need to know. They're in the family group chat." She stopped, as if the words were hard for her to say. "What group chat?" "I'm not in a group chat." "That's the point." Her voice became softer, filled with shame. "The one Dad, Uncle Robert, Mom, and Aunt Sarah made. It's called Drama-Free Getaway." I felt as if the plush carpet was shifting under my feet. "What do you mean, drama-free?" "Grandma, they didn't want you to come on the trip." The words didn't make sense. "What do you mean they didn't want me to come? Robert invited me. He asked me to organize everything." Lily, her hands trembling, held out her phone. On the screen, I could see the group chat. The most recent messages, sent just moments ago, broke my heart into a million pieces. "Robert, we've arrived. The old lady took care of everything at the desk, as usual. Sarah, perfect. Now we can finally enjoy ourselves, without her watching us all the time. David, did you see how excited she was at reception? God, how embarrassing. Chloe, well, at least she's useful for something. Let her stay in her room watching TV while we take advantage of everything she paid for." The words blurred in front of my eyes. I felt the tears welling up, my throat closing. $5,800, my wedding ring, 8 months of work, all so they could enjoy themselves, drama-free, without me. "Grandma?" Lily's voice sounded far away. "Grandma, are you okay?" No, I wasn't okay. But I wasn't defeated, either. I stood there in the silent, pristine hallway of the Azure Cove Resort, the 5 key cards dangling from my trembling fingers, while Lily looked at me with tears filling her own eyes. The messages from the drama-free getaway chat kept coming, each one another small, sharp blade in my heart. "Sarah, I just hope she doesn't get all pushy about family dinners every night. Robert, don't worry, Sarah." If she gets too annoying, we'll just tell her she looks tired and that she should go rest. The important thing is that the kids have fun. She can do her own thing." I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. The hallway smelled of industrial-strength cleaner and faint gardenias, but all I could taste was the bitter acid of humiliation in my mouth. For 45 years, I had raised those children. I had sacrificed my own dreams for theirs. I had sold my wedding ring to give them this perfect vacation, and this was how they repaid me. "Lily," I said, my voice raspy, a voice I didn't recognize as my own, "how long has this group chat existed?" She looked down at her phone, scrolling up, her brow furrowed. Since Uncle Robert suggested the trip, Grandma. Look." She showed me the screen. There it was, clear as day, group drama-free getaway created on November 12th by Robert Vance. The very same day my son had called me with his honey-coated voice to invite me on the family trip of my dreams. I continued to read the older messages, each one worse than the last. "Robert, I already talked to Mom. She fell for the whole story. She's so excited." "David, you're sure she'll be able to organize it? You know how she is with technology." "Sarah, it doesn't matter. If she messes it up, we'll fix it. The important thing is she pays the deposit. She'll use her savings." "Chloe, great. A free vacation. Just so we're clear, no all-together activities. Everyone for themselves." My vision blurred with tears I could no longer hold back. But then I saw something else, more recent messages that made me understand the true, horrifying magnitude of their betrayal. "David, did you confirm that the resort allows changes to the reservation?" "Robert, yeah," Sarah asked at reception. "Since it's under Mom's name, she's the only one who can make changes." "David, perfect. Tomorrow we'll convince her to add our names to the rooms, just in case of emergency." Sarah, "And on the last day, we'll tell her there was a billing error and that the resort needs her to dispute the charges with her credit card company." Robert, "Exactly. She'll report it as fraud, the bank will reverse the charge, and we'll be in the clear. She won't have to pay a dime, and we get a free trip." There it was, the full, monstrous plan. They hadn't just planned to ignore me. They had planned to use me to organize and pay for their perfect vacation, and then they were going to manipulate me into committing bank fraud, leaving me to deal with the legal and financial fallout. They were going to abandon me with the entire debt, and worse, a potential crime. "Grandma?" Lily gently touched my arm. "What are you going to do?" That question echoed in my mind. What was I going to do? The old Eleanor, the Eleanor of yesterday, would have cried in silence. She would have swallowed the humiliation, swallowed the pain, and pretended she hadn't seen anything. She would have spent the 7 days locked in her beautiful ocean view suite, ordering room service so as not to bother her family, watching television while they enjoyed the pools, the spa, and the nightly activities that I had paid for. But something had changed inside me. Maybe it was watching my wedding ring, my last physical piece of Arthur, disappear into Mr. Henderson's hands. Or maybe it was those 8 months of waking up before sunrise to stir bubbling pots of jam, my back screaming in protest. Or maybe it was simply the cold, hard realization that my own children saw me not as a mother, but as a walking wallet, a useful nuisance, a burden. "I don't know yet, honey," I replied to Lily, wiping my tears with the back of my hand, "but I am not going to stand here and cry." We walked to my suite, 303. It was beautiful. A king-sized bed with pristine white sheets, a balcony with a direct, breathtaking view of the turquoise ocean, and a marble bathroom with a deep, soaking tub. Everything I had dreamed of for months. But now it felt cold, like a stage set for a play where I was merely the financier, not one of the actors. I sat on the bed, and Lily stood by the window, looking out at the beach where I could already see some of my family members. Robert and David were in the pool with their kids. Sarah and Chloe were already ordering cocktails under a cabana. They were all laughing, enjoying themselves, as if nothing had happened. "You know what hurts the most?" I said, mostly to myself. "It's not the money. It's not even the fact that they lied to me. It's that I really thought we were finally going to be a real family." that we were going to make beautiful memories together. Lily turned around, her eyes red. Grandma, I tried to tell them it was wrong. When Dad added me to the group, I told them it wasn't fair to you. But they just said I didn't understand, that sometimes adults have to make difficult decisions. Difficult decisions, that's what I was to them. A difficult decision. At that moment, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Robert. Mom, we've settled in. We're going to have lunch at the beach restaurant. If you want, you can just order room service. See you at dinner, maybe. Liars. They had planned to have lunch without me all along. But this time, instead of feeling hurt, I felt a cold, sharp smile touch my lips. I typed a reply to Lily, who I knew was in the room with her parents. Tell your uncle thank you, but I have other plans. And I wasn't lying. I did have other plans. Plans that were taking shape in my mind with a clarity that surprised me. That afternoon, while my family enjoyed the sun and sand on my dime, I was busy. I had learned over 67 years that patience is the most powerful weapon a woman can have, especially a woman everyone has learned to underestimate. My first call was to my bank. After navigating a maze of automated options, I finally spoke to a human. National Bank. This is Carmen. How can I help you? Good morning, Carmen. My name is Eleanor Vance. I need to report a potential attempt at financial fraud on my credit card. Of course, Mrs. Vance. Can you provide your card number? After confirming my identity, I explained the situation, choosing my words with care. Carmen, I have reason to believe that a family member is going to try to convince me to fraudulently dispute legitimate charges that I made on my card. Specifically, a resort reservation for $5,800, which I personally authorized and paid for in full. I understand your concern, Mrs. Vance. Do you have evidence of this? I have all the reservation documents, payment confirmations, and a witness who can corroborate that I authorized every cent. Furthermore, my granddaughter overheard my son and son-in-law discussing this plan today. Carmen was efficient. I am placing a protection note on your account right now, Mrs. Vance. If anyone, including you, tries to dispute these specific charges, it will trigger an automatic investigation that will require substantial evidence of actual, non-family-related fraud. In the meantime, the charges will remain valid. I am also emailing you a form to document this potential family fraud attempt for our records. After hanging up, I felt as though I had disarmed their biggest weapon. My second call was to the hotel reception. Good afternoon. Could I please speak with the manager? 5 minutes later, a man with a kind, firm voice introduced himself. Mrs. Vance, I'm Michael Davenport, the resort manager. The receptionist tells me you wanted to speak with me. Yes, Mr. Davenport, I have a delicate family situation, and I need to make sure certain information is officially registered. I explained that I had paid for the full reservation as a gift, but had just discovered my family planned to defraud both me and the hotel by disputing the charges. There was a heavy sigh on the other end. I understand perfectly, Mrs. Vance. Unfortunately, this is not the first time we've seen such a situation. What would you like us to do? First, I need you to confirm in writing that I am the sole holder of this reservation and that I paid for all 5 suites voluntarily. Second, if anyone in my family tries to make any changes to any of the rooms without my express, in-person authorization, I want you to contact me immediately. Of course, ma'am. I will have an official letter confirming all details of your reservation and payment sent to your room within the hour. I am also instructing all reception staff about this situation. One more thing, Mr. Davenport. Would it be possible to schedule a meeting with you for tomorrow morning? Say 9 a.m.? I believe I might need to make some significant changes to the reservation. Of course, my office, 9 a.m. sharp. My third call was the most important. I found the number for Mr. Gable, the lawyer who had helped me with Arthur's will. Gable and Associates. Good afternoon. Hello, is Mr. Gable in? This is Eleanor Vance. A few moments later, his familiar booming voice filled the phone. Eleanor, what a pleasure. Is everything all right? No, Mr. Gable, nothing is all right. I told him the whole story. The trip, the group chat, the plan to dispute the charges. He listened without interrupting, his occasional of disapproval growing louder. "Eleanor," he said when I finished, "this is very serious. What your children are planning constitutes conspiracy to commit bank fraud, and their manipulation of you to gain this financial benefit. This is, by legal definition, elder abuse." Elder abuse. The words hung in the air. "What can I do, Mr. Gable?" "First, it's excellent that you've contacted the bank. Second, I am emailing you a document right now. It is a sworn statement, an affidavit, that you voluntarily, and of your own free will, paid for all trip expenses. I want you to sign it and have it notarized. Does the hotel have a notary?" The manager said they can provide all services. "Good. Do that immediately. As for legal action against your children, do you want to pursue it?" The question hit me like a physical blow. "Sue, my sons, Robert and David? I don't know. I just want them to stop." "I understand. But know that you have options. You can protect your assets. You can change your will. Think about it, Eleanor. Think very hard." After I hung up, I sat in silence. The sun was beginning to set, painting my room in hues of orange and gold. I heard the happy, boisterous voices of my family returning from the beach, laughing, talking about their dinner plans. At 6:30, someone knocked on my door. It was Robert. "Hey, Mom, how was your afternoon?" "Very productive, son." "Productive? What did you do?" "Important calls, paperwork, adult stuff." I saw his smile become a little forced. "Oh, well, Mom, speaking of paperwork, David and I were thinking maybe it would be easier if we handled some of the hotel details. You know, so you don't have to worry about anything." There it was. The first move. "What kind of details?" "Well, you know, getting our names added to the rooms, just in case there's an emergency and we need access." "What kind of emergency would require you to have access to rooms that aren't yours, Robert?" He seemed taken aback by the direct question. I don't know, Mom. We just thought it would be more practical." "Robert," I said, my voice dangerously calm, "I am 67 years old, not 97. I am perfectly capable of handling the keys." "Of course, Mom. I didn't mean you couldn't. I just thought—" "What did you think exactly?" He fumbled, searching for the right words to manipulate the situation, but my new, cold stare offered him no comfort. "Nothing, Mom. Forget it. Are you coming to dinner?" "Of course. It's my money paying for that dinner, isn't it?" The question caught him by surprise. "Your money? Mom, I don't understand why you're aiding like this." "Like what, Robert?" "We'll split everything at the end of the trip, like we talked about." "When did we talk about that exactly? Did we ever agree this would be a shared expense? Or did you just assume—" He stared at me, his confusion palpable. His plan required me to be passive, predictable, and grateful. I was no longer playing my part. "Let's go to dinner, son," I said, getting up. "I'm hungry." At 5 a.m. I was awake, not from an alarm, but from the habit ingrained by months of waking to prepare for the market. But this morning, instead of the familiar weight of obligation, I felt a strange, electric energy. Today was the day. I showered, put on my best navy blue suit, the one I'd bought for Arthur's funeral but never had an occasion to wear since, and went down to my 9 a.m. meeting with Mr. Davenport. His office was elegant, overlooking the resort's private gardens. He had the notarized affidavit from Mr. Gable and the hotel's letter already prepared. "Mrs. Vance," he said, offering me a coffee, "last night I reviewed your case with our legal team. We want to make sure we understand." "Your legal team?" "Yes. Cases like yours, while unfortunately not rare, require us to follow strict protocols to protect both the guest and the resort. Now, I have an addendum to your reservation contract." He slid a paper across the desk. "This document gives you, as the sole and verified payer of the reservation, exclusive and absolute authority over every aspect of your stay." "What does that mean exactly?" "It means, Mrs. Vance, that you have absolute control. You can decide who stays and who leaves. You can modify services. You can cancel specific rooms if you wish." My heart quickened. "I can. Cancel specific rooms? Absolutely. There are 5 suites reserved under your name. You can keep all 5, or you can cancel 1, 2, 3, or even all 4 of the others. The plan crystallized in my mind, sharp and perfect. Mr. Davenport, I said, my voice steady, I want to make some changes. I want to cancel 4 of the 5 suites. He raised an eyebrow slightly but maintained his professional expression. Which ones specifically? Suites 301, 302, 304, and 305. I want to keep only 303, which is mine. Understood. And when do you want these cancellations to be effective? Today, but not immediately. First, I want you to block all access to those rooms at 10 a.m. sharp. Their key cards will stop working. Then, at 11 a.m., I want hotel staff to go to those suites or find the guests at the pool and inform them that they must vacate their rooms before noon due to a change in the reservation. Mr. Davenport took notes. Any specific instructions for the staff? Yes, they are to explain that the reservation holder, which is me, decided to modify the stay, that it is not the hotel's fault, but a personal decision by the person who paid. And if they ask where I am, you can tell them I am available in Suite 303, but security should be on standby. If there is any shouting or disrespect toward your staff, they are to be escorted from the property. He finished writing and looked at me with a new respect. Mrs. Vance, may I ask, what led to this? Mr. Davenport, do you have a family? Yes, a wife and 2 young children. And what if they betrayed you? What if you found out they were using you, that they were embarrassed by you, that they planned to scam you? He was silent for a moment. I think I understand. One last thing, I said. Could you have a taxi ready for 12:30 p.m.? For 2 people, my granddaughter Lily and me. We're going to another hotel. He smiled. It will be my pleasure. At exactly 10 a.m., my phone vibrated. A text from Lily. Grandma, they're all at the pool. Dad just told Uncle Robert that after lunch, he's going to reception to sort out the rooms and get their names added. Another screenshot from the group chat. David, did you confirm with the bank? Robert, yes. The dispute process should be ready this afternoon. By tomorrow, we'll be home free. At 10:30 a.m., another text from Lily. Aunt Sarah is heading back to the room. She said she forgot her sunscreen. I waited. At 10:32 a.m., Lily texted again. Grandma, Mom is at the reception desk. She's yelling. Her keycard isn't working. 3 minutes later. Now they're all there. Dad is very upset. The receptionist is trying to explain something. At 10:45 a.m., Robert called me. His voice was tense. Mom, there's some kind of problem with the rooms. The key cards aren't working. Could you come down to reception and help us fix it? What kind of problem, Robert? We don't know. The receptionist says there's a change in the reservation, but that's impossible. Could you just come down? I'm a little busy right now, son. I'm sure it will be sorted out. I hung up. At 10:58 a.m., my phone rang again. This time it was David. Mom, we need you at reception now. There's a very serious misunderstanding, and only you can fix it. The hotel says you canceled our rooms. That's ridiculous, right? Tell them it's a mistake. Why would it be ridiculous, David? There was a long, cold silence. What? What do you mean, why? I mean, why is it ridiculous? Is there no reason you can think of that I might cancel your rooms? Mom, what is going on? I'm sure Mr. Davenport explained it to you. You know the manager? Of course. We had a very productive meeting this morning. Another silence, this one heavier. When David spoke again, his voice was a strangled whisper. Mom, you canceled our rooms. Yes. Why? Because I can. I hung up. At 11:05 a.m., there was a pounding on my door. Not a knock, a forceful, desperate banging. I opened it. There they were, all 4 of them, Robert, David, Sarah, and Chloe. Their faces were a collage of fury, confusion, and panic. Can you tell me what the hell is going on? Sarah yelled, pushing past me into the room. Good morning to you, too, I said calmly. Don't give me that attitude, Eleanor, she shrieked. The hotel says you canceled our rooms. That's correct, I did. You can't do that, Robert sputtered. I can, and I have. Mr. Davenport was very clear. As the sole payer of the reservation, I have absolute control. Our trip, Chloe whispered, looking faint. I thought this was a family trip. I thought so too, I said, my voice quiet but shaking with a rage I hadn't known I possessed. Until I discovered that you don't consider me family. Until I discovered the drama-free getaway. I watched their faces fall. I watched the color drain from Robert's cheeks. I watched David's eyes widen in horror. This, Robert tried, this isn't what it looks like. It's not? Then explain to me what free vacation means, Robert. Explain what at least she's useful for something means, Chloe. Explain how embarrassing she is, David. The silence in the room was deafening. Mom, David finally spoke, his voice cracking. I understand you're upset, but you can't just leave us without rooms. We have small children. The same children you were planning to keep away from me all week? Don't worry. Your belongings are being packed by the hotel staff as we speak. They'll be waiting for you in the lobby. And what about the bank, David? I continued. Have you already started the fraudulent dispute? David's face went completely white. How? How do you know about that? I know everything. You can't do this. Sarah lunged forward, her face twisted in a mask of pure hatred. We are your family. You can't just abandon us. Abandon you? I looked directly into the eyes of the woman who had called me a burden. Who abandoned whom first, Sarah? At that moment, Lily appeared in the doorway, her own small suitcase in her hand. She had been waiting in the hall. What is going on? She asked, though she already knew. We're leaving, Anna said, tears of rage streaming down her face. No, Lily said, her voice small but firm. I'm not going with you. What? David stared at his daughter. I can't. I can't be a part of this. What you did to Grandma, it's wrong. She looked at her parents, her aunts, her uncles. Do you even know what she did to pay for this? She sold her wedding ring. Grandma sold Grandpa's ring so you could all be here. If my previous words had been a slap, Lily's were a cannonball. Robert slumped into a chair as if his legs had given out. David looked like he was going to be physically sick. You sold your ring? Robert whispered, looking up at me. His eyes finally filled with something resembling shame. You never asked, I said simply. You just assumed I had endless money for your whims. Mom, Robert tried, standing up. Please, we can fix this. We can. We can apologize. Are you apologizing because you're sorry, Robert? Or are you apologizing because you got caught? He couldn't answer. A polite knock came from the open door. It was Mr. Davenport. Excuse the interruption, Mrs. Vance. The hotel staff has informed me that the guests in suites 301, 302, 304, and 305 are refusing to vacate. I looked at my children. You have until noon. After that, Mr. Davenport has my full permission to have you escorted out as trespassers. And your taxi is waiting, Mrs. Vance, he added with a slight smile. Taxi? Chloe asked, her voice shrill. You're leaving? Yes, Lily and I are going to another hotel, one where we can truly enjoy the vacation I deserve. You can't take our daughter, David yelled. I'm not taking her, I said, picking up my purse. She is choosing to come with me. She's the only person in this family who treated me with honesty. I picked up my small suitcase. Lily picked up hers. We walked to the door. Mom, Robert said one last time, his voice broken, if we leave like this, things will never be the same between us. I stopped in the doorway and turned to look at my son, the man I had raised, the boy I had loved. Robert, I said, placing my hand on his arm. Things were already never the same. You made sure of that the moment you created a group chat to mock your mother. You made sure of that when you planned to turn me into a criminal. This isn't an ending. This is just you finally facing the consequences of your own choices. We walked to the elevator. As the doors closed, I could see them standing in the hallway, defeated, furious, and utterly alone. In the lobby, Mr. Davenport was waiting. He escorted us past my family's pile of luggage near the entrance. "Mrs. Vance," he said, holding the taxi door open for me. "It has been an honor." As the taxi pulled away from the Azure Cove Resort, I looked out the back window. I could see my family, clustered on the curb with their mountain of suitcases, already arguing. I turned my gaze forward. Beside me, Lily was quiet for a long time. "Do you regret it, Grandma?" she finally asked. I thought about the question as the landscape of the Florida Keys rushed past. I thought about my 47 years of marriage, about the ring I had sold. I thought about the 8 months of hard labor, about the cold house and the lonely dinners. I thought about the $5,800, a sum I would be paying off for years. Then I thought about the look of shock on their faces. I thought about the feeling of cold, clean liberation that was now filling my chest. "No, honey," I finally replied, taking her hand in mine. "I don't regret it at all. I only regret that it took me 67 years to realize that the most important person I need to love and respect is myself." For the first time in 5 years, I felt completely free. And for the first time in my life, I had put my own dignity first. It was a strange, new, and terrifying feeling. But mostly, it just felt right.